Okay, sorry. X beef. Good morning. Welcome to the Associated Guest. I am Alfie Animus here on the Bear in Mind channel. Today we look at Dr. Mike's thoughts. I haven't watched this video. Dr. Mike's thoughts on the. He says Tylenol. Hopefully, he, as a doctor, he knows the difference between acetaminophen and the specific brand of Tylenol. We move on to. Some more about the ICE shooting. I think we have a little bit today, and then if we have time after at the end of it, Candace Owens. We'll get back into that, but that will probably be tomorrow or Saturday's show. In the meantime, let's see what's been getting me on the Twitter beef so far. All right. So this lady is very nice. I said, sad that the teachers, because she's a teacher, teachers today study with Cliff Notes because they only read headlines and watch clips. This is who's teaching your kids. And then this person says, oh, you're upset. It's not funneled through the spin of, well, what he meant to say was, they're talking about Charlie Kirk's talking about empathy. Come the sin of empathy, BS has a major talking point, doubly, so red hat Christian grifters. That doesn't really make sense grammatically, but okay. And then this other person says, yep, they won't touch his exact words. Lack of empathy is their unsaid party slogan. Red hat equals hat red equals hatred. That's just bad math. So I said he literally said he prefers sympathy or compassion as opposed to empathy, but you're allowed to be wrong. I also love the people celebrating his death are giving lectures on empathy. She comes back to say, no celebration here. I'm on topic to her concerns. There's no getting around what he said about empathy. It's not a bad trait. Do you understand that? And then she brought Grok into it, said, can you find the quotes Charlie Kirk said about empathy, sympathy, and compassion? And Grok said, because it's true, Charlie Kirk said on a 2024 podcast, I can't stand the word empathy. I think empathy is a made-up New Age term that does a lot of damage. Then he actually goes in further to say why it causes said damage, but I can't remember it off the top of my head. And he says sympathy is a better word because empathy means you are actually feeling what another person is feeling, and it's impossible. He often prefers compassion or sympathy over empathy, criticizing toxic empathy in progressive context. So there you have it. To which I will reply, thank you, Grok. That's all I'm saying. Love him. Hate him. Or feel nothing. At the very least, know what the fuck you're talking about. Sorry. Okay. So that's my Twitter beef for the morning. I know it's X now, but I don't know. Like, I like calling it X as a platform, but I still like referring to it as Twitter or whatever, Twitter beef. But anyway, let's continue on to see what Dr. Mike. Now, Dr. Mike, I don't know about his specific credentials. I just know he likes to watch any kind of doctor-based TV show or anything doctor-related in pop culture and comment on it. And he usually seems that he knows what he's talking about for the most part. But we'll see what his take is on this. And if he only says the word Tylenol as opposed to acetaminophen, see, I've been practicing. But let's see what he has to say.
Jr. and President Trump held a press conference on Tylenol and autism. My cell phone exploded with tweets, emails, and messages asking for me to uncover the truth. Interestingly enough, I was actually working on a video for a new Truth or Scare episode on the association between Tylenol and autism. Now, I wanted to come into this video very level-headed, relaxed, just to talk about the facts, cover what was wrong, cover what was right, but this press conference was just so bad. So full of
inaccuracies, I agree with that.
Lies, judgment. It literally depressed me to see how far we've fallen. I've said that the information I present on this channel is not political, it's clinical. But what I really meant was that it isn't partisan. For the last few years, partisan politics have destroyed our credibility as healthcare professionals. Truth and
Yes.
facts have progressively become devalued in comparison to winning. And before your mind goes there, this isn't a left or right thing either.
Agreed.
Whether it was President Biden announcing boosters before the CDC and FDA even approved them, or President
Thank
Trump
you.
pushing hydroxychloroquine as a game changer while his own NIH rushed to fact check him. Even Vice President Kamala Harris has played this game, claiming she would not get Trump's vaccine, only to get it several months later.
When it was
How
Biden's
just
vaccine.
Universal. And now
And I'm really glad he said this, because it points to something ridiculous, and we have politicized and made partisan all these issues that should not be. The medical profession should not be a partisan issue. Just like everything else, the government needs to stay out of it. The only thing that they are there for is to make sure that this kind of stuff doesn't happen. That the medical professions are not using us as guinea pigs. I mean, unless we sign up for it. I don't know if that's still a thing. But we are not guinea pigs. We are not here for you to make a buck. And the fact that the COVID vaccine was pushed before it was even properly approved is horrifying. And that people still get boosters on the regular. And literally, I don't know. And he said it best. This started off as Trump's vaccine, and Kamala Harris said she would not get it, and then she got it after it became Biden's vaccine, and Biden started pushing it. And I say this wholeheartedly. I don't care if you're a Trump supporter or one of the anti-Trump people. If everything that you do and every opinion you have is based off of what Trump says, whether you're for it or against it, you are a partisan hack sheep, and I feel sorry for you. And that's it. You can like Trump, you can dislike Trump, but if you follow every man's word to a T, or do your best to go against that man's word to a T, then you have no personality. You are a shell of a person, and I feel for you. But let's continue to see what Dr. Mike says. This is good so far. I like it.
now with this autism press conference, we've sunk to an all-time low.
Uh-oh.
It's no longer political theater, but more like a partisan soap opera. Listening to the words Trump uses in this one single press conference. Whether you're liberal or conservative, it's truly abysmal. I don't mean this from a political correctness standpoint. I mean this from a scientific communication standpoint.
I'm going to click
And
like.
by the way, I think I can say that there were certain
And this again, I do agree with him on this point. Trump should not make these announcements. Because a lot of retards, I'm sorry, I use that word a lot, but I like it and I've missed it for the past 6 to 8 years. There's a lot of idiots on the internet, TikTok and such, who are guzzling Tylenol to the point where, let me see if I can find this story. And I don't know how legit this is, but got a frantic call at 4 a.m. from my husband, who was given my phone number via someone who had it. His pregnant wife is now on a ventilator, dying of liver failure, trying to prove that Tylenol does not cause autism, since this is trending on TikTok. TikTok is brain rot. A lot of people use it, and a lot of people make money just doing regular things, throwing up there playing video games, just giving little like travel updates, like video reporting, all kinds of stuff, like just what travel vlog, that's the word I'm looking for. Like the internet's been for decades. But a lot of people just go on there and do these ridiculous trends. It's no different than the Tide Pod challenge. People are literally guzzling Tylenol because Trump said it causes autism. And yes, Trump's wording was off. I've looked at the actual study. It says if you take a certain amount at a certain stage in the pregnancy for a certain amount of time, yes, it can potentially lead to autism. It's much like the pursuit of happiness instead of just happiness. The government has to assure you're happy and safe. Safe from foreign and domestic terrors, yes. But happy, no. The same thing with this. It can potentially cause autism. See? I haven't even watched the part where he mispronounces acetaminophen, but already I can't speak. This is not the way that we should be. If you get your information from TikTok in the first place, you might be your parents may have taken Tylenol. We'll just say that. It's a nicer way to say it. But let's backing up there. And also Jennifer Garner and Ben Affleck's daughter is a Tylenol American. Oh, and South Park's back this week. I'll talk about that probably tomorrow morning, but let's continue.
Groups of people that don't take vaccines and don't take any pills that have no autism. Is that a correct statement, by the way? See, Bobby wants to be very careful with what he says, and he should, but I'm not so careful with what I...
Yeah, and sometimes it shows. Look, I know Trump likes to be the one to announce a lot of this, but I really think that him being the one to announce it is detrimental to what he's trying to achieve. The same way as Pam Bondi's very existence, but we won't get into that today. Let's continue.
Imagine your own doctor repeating those lines to you.
This is based on what I feel.
Scientific press conferences are not supposed to be about how you feel.
No.
It's not even about how experts feel. It's about what the evidence shows and to what level it shows it.
Yes.
I'm not a doctor, but I'm giving my opinion.
This literally reminds me of one of those stupid shirts at Spencer's that say, I'm not a doctor, but I'll take a look. This isn't comedy.
Pretty much.
This is what folks will use to make their health decisions. Some of the press conference is even uncomfortable to listen to. Look, I point out that political correct...
And I do very much agree with him on this. I like a lot of the stuff that Trump does, and there's stuff that I don't like. This is definitely a bad Trump moment. A very bad Trump moment. My God. Now, the backlash for it, and people who haven't even read the study, is ridiculous. But people literally think, because he's the one that did the press conference, that him and Robert Kennedy were playing with a chemistry set and decided that Tylenol causes autism. The only reason he said Tylenol is because he has trouble pronouncing acetaminophen, by the way. Because Tylenol, as we all know, didn't come into existence till like 1948, 1950, something like that. Autism's been around since like the late 30s, early 40s. And acetaminophen has been around since the 1800s. Let's continue.
Correctness can stifle speech that could perhaps give us a better understanding of reality. In fact, I've even been called fat-phobic and have had to defend myself for encouraging weight loss in those who are obese. But the way the president discusses these topics is just
Fat-phobic.
gross.
Like an Ozempic, or I call it the fat pill or the fat drug. Sometimes it works, I guess, for people. The ones I've seen, it hasn't worked so well. I got a lot of friends, they're fat. They said, yeah, I lost some weight. I said, you don't look it to me.
We've blurred the reality between podcast hosts.
Which is funny, but you're the president. And a lot of people are praising, like, I do like some of the posts that J.D. Vance makes. But again, just the same way that Trump doesn't speak like a president, and a lot of people like that, J.D. Vance does not speak like a vice president. And while I love when people dunk on people, probably not so good for the vice president to do so. Because now you got Gavin Newsom doing the same thing, and he's basically a Temu brand Trump, but a much, much shittier government leader.
Hosts who straddle the line between comedy and politics with a president who makes jokes at the expense of accuracy and others' well-being. But let's get to the science. Throughout this press conference, President Trump repeatedly says,
Don't take Tylenol. There's no downside. Don't take it. You'll be uncomfortable. It won't be as easy, maybe, but don't take it. If you're pregnant, don't take Tylenol, and don't give it to the baby after the baby is born.
well, as a board-certified, actively practicing physician who's been in practice over 10 years, he's flat out wrong. In healthcare, every decision has consequences.
Yes.
Taking or not taking a medication both carry sets of benefits and harms. That's because medications, therapy, surgeries all have biological, psychological, and even social implications and trade-offs. And what's even more interesting is that those benefits and harms will be drastically different depending on which individual we're discussing. All this is to show that I'm not making an appeal to authority argument here, saying that Trump isn't a doctor, so he must be wrong. I'm actually saying he's wrong because he's wrong.
Thank you.
If he was a doctor, he would know that not treating a fever, especially early in pregnancy, can carry serious risks. Elevated temperatures from untreated fever, even hot tubs or saunas, are consistently associated with higher neural tube defect risks in the fetus. This has even been applied to other parts of development, including increases in congenital heart defects and orofacial deformities. So no, we don't just give Tylenol for comfort during pregnancy.
There's no downside other than a mother will have to, as I say, tough it out a little bit. There's no downside to doing this. It's not like, oh, if you do this,
Look
you're
at this
going
man's
to
face.
die. There's no down.
This is the main downside about Trump. You can clearly see that RFK wants to say something. And as much as I like a lot of the stuff that Trump does,
Side.
His
my
tone
God.
about toughening up is not just judgmental, but inaccurate. What's ironic, the topic of lowering fevers is uniquely interesting to me because I've long discussed that we need to decrease this obsession that we have of routinely lowering a fever. So often a patient of mine says, I've been taking Tylenol around the clock to lower and control my fever. But that's not always necessary. A fever could be a good thing, but some can be problematic and are not okay.
Yes.
That's the nuance that's necessary. Trump also proudly highlighted how his team has cracked the code for why autism rates have increased in the US. He blamed it on two things, sort of. And I say sort of because he's not the clearest communicator, especially when it comes to statistics.
no.
And you know, we have something else called favored nations where I'm going to be reducing drug prices by 1,000%.
What?
Trump implies over and over that Tylenol causes autism. And his director of the FDA quite literally said that on Fox News later that night.
Well, I'll tell you, the biggest study was done by Harvard and Mount Sinai. They looked at 27 studies showing an association. There were 4 against it, and they said, based on the overwhelming body of evidence, there was a causal relationship. Those are the exact words of the dean of the Harvard School of Public Health.
On the surface, I realize that sounds terrifying. Tylenol is our go-to option for pain and fever in pregnancy because NSAIDs like ibuprofen and aspirin have well-proven risks. It's
Yes.
literally on the safe medication list that I give to my patients in the OB clinic. Here's the interesting twist. Their claim isn't totally made up. I pointed out earlier, I was literally working on a video on this exact subject. For years, researchers have studied the possible links between acetaminophen and autism, ADHD, and other developmental conditions. Some of those studies do show associations, and some show biological plausibility, especially in animal models, which means that it is possible that Tylenol may play a role in autism development. But when someone like RFK Jr. cherry picks that data to support his pre-made conclusion, it can be sold to sound very convincing.
Yeah.
That's the big problem here. The data should lead to the story. But if you already know the story, you made it up in your head, you're not doing the science. You're doing marketing, or in this case, politics. Consistently, this administration misses the cornerstone of scientific research. Correlation does not equal causation. There's a lot to unpack in many of these studies. There's many variables and confounders at play. Just think about it. Who takes Tylenol? Those who have fevers or pain, basically people who are sick. Perhaps the association of sickness is stronger than the association of Tylenol use. Did RFK Jr. bother to even check? Anyway, let's zoom out and look at some real information. In 2021,
Sorry, I'm really
over
sucked into
90
this.
scientists signed a statement that pregnant women should be cautious with Tylenol. Not to stop it, not to ban it, just to be cautious. Which really, I feel like that should always be the case with medications.
Of course,
Fast
always.
forward, the biggest study came out this year in Sweden, not in the US, looking at over 2 million children. When they compared siblings, one who was exposed to Tylenol, one not, boom, no increased autism risk. That's really powerful because siblings share genetics, environment, and parental health habits. So if Tylenol was truly to blame, you'd expect a signal there, but it wasn't. Other big studies since then, same story. Maybe a slight association, But when you control for confounders like genetics, illnesses, and environmental exposures, it mostly evaporates. How about the fact that the use of Tylenol during pregnancy has gone down or stayed stagnant in recent decades, yet autism rates continue to grow? Less Tylenol, more autism. Doesn't make sense. Translation, the Tylenol autism link is not proven.
No.
Now here's where I get frustrated. Trump, RFK Jr., and the rest of the administration presented this like a settled fact when it's obviously not. Even the author from the Harvard School of Public Health, who was misquoted, by the way, by Dr. McCary, clearly said further research is needed to confirm the association and determine causality. He sent that in his message to Trump's team before the press conference. Now, there's a world of a difference between there might be a risk here that's worth studying and this definitively causes autism. When you nix nuance and mix that messaging with partisan politics, people lose trust in us, actual doctors. It also pushes some to avoid Tylenol when they really need it. Will people actually get hurt as a result of this press conference?
And this is the thing. When it comes to your doctor, politics should not even be a factor. The only thing that matters when you're talking to a doctor is the medicine. And these days, thanks to people like Fauci and people like, the Trump and the Biden administrations, it's all become partisan. And it literally just depends on who's pushing it. During the end of Trump's presidency, when COVID hit and the vaccine was made, a lot of people like myself, mostly conspiracy theorists, and then people who just don't trust vaccines because they always get sick when they take them. A lot of people didn't trust it, but for the most part, a lot of people who were MAGA were very for it, and a lot of people who weren't MAGA were extremely against it. I will never take it. Never, ever, ever, ever. Then the parties flipped, and they started pushing on the left, and then everyone had to do it. You're killing grandma if you're not taking the vaccine. And here we are, to where everything is political, everything's partisan. This is not what we should be doing. Yes, politics are important, but it should not envelop everything in our lives. And this is what happens when mainstream entertainment absorbs things it really shouldn't. I don't know if you remember, Robot Chicken used to make fun that one day C-SPAN would look a lot like TRL did in the early 2000s and late 90s. I don't know about C-SPAN, but that's what politics looks like as a whole. Honestly, every time there's an election, I'm surprised they don't pull Sway out of retirement, off his podcast, whatever you want to call it, and have him calling off the poll numbers, calling off everything. Not calling off, calling out. But we're very close to that. And it's startling. I don't know about frightening, but it's pretty startling at the very least.
Sure. I actually don't think that's unreasonable to expect. Truly, this is part of a bigger pattern. RFK Jr. and other politicians have built their careers on overstating scientific uncertainty, especially with autism. First vaccines, now Tylenol. Same playbook. Highlight just enough data to sound convincing, then exaggerate the conclusions. And Trump? Well, he's seizing on that to look like he's saving the day by taking on big pharma or small pharma, over-the-counter pharma, even if it means twisting the science. It plays well.
And this is what I'm talking about. The left is supposed to be the anti-big pharma party. What happened? COVID happened. That's exactly what happened. We live in a world where look, I understand they're two hand puppets being controlled by a bigger entity. But when a lot of your more punk rock style people like Michael Malice, Johnny Rotten from the Sex Pistols are leaning more towards conservatism, this does not compute. I don't understand our politics anymore. I really, really don't. Also, the left used to be the party of nonviolence. Look what's going on lately. A lot of left-wing extremist violence. And the sad thing is, I don't even think it's extremist anymore, because I see a lot of people that I know in my real life, especially from back home, that are cheering this stuff. I don't understand it. This should something we all be unified on, especially poor people. What are we doing? Why are we cheering for, oh no, I'm going to go buy a bunch of Tylenol right now?
To score political points, but it's a disaster for pregnant patients who need honest, balanced guidance. It's even a bigger disaster for us who actually want to find the actual reason for the increased autism rates. RFK earlier this year said he'd...
I would say diagnosing and people who try too hard to appease the neurodivergent Instagram people.
Find the cause of autism by September. And when he obviously didn't find it, he just chose an explanation that might fit. So if you're watching this and you're pregnant or planning to be, what do? First, stay alert, not anxious. Nothing in the newest research proves Tylenol causes autism. And if it does, I promise I'll be there to make that announcement. Second, keep using the rule we've always relied on. Lowest dose, shortest duration, only when the benefits outweigh the harms.
Yes.
Third, if you have questions, don't hesitate to talk to your family medicine or OB doctor, because the proven risks of untreated fever, migraines, or severe pain can outweigh the theoretical risks of Tylenol. Science certainly evolves, but right now, the balance of evidence, even the author of the study used by RFK Jr., says Tylenol is safe enough for occasional use in pregnancy when necessary. The association truly becomes strongest after 4 weeks or even longer of use. Trump and RFK took a complicated, unsettled area of research and oversimplified it into a scary narrative for their own benefit. That's not helping anyone. If you want a deeper look into who RFK Jr. really is, click here, as I'm sure it'll give you a sense of how these narratives keep repeating themselves. For now, stay informed, stay skeptical, and as always, stay happy and healthy.
Yes. Yes, always stay skeptical, especially when it comes from politicians. And I got a lot of respect for the man. He's done a lot of stuff that I agree with. On the other hand, he hired and he will not say anything bad about Pam Bondi. Like, that's the biggest thing that kills me. Say what you want about a lot of the other stuff, the Epstein list, which, oh, by the way, James O'Keefe, this wasn't a setup segue, but here we go. James O'Keefe has a new...
It's not talked about yet.
Has a new bombshell expose. I saw it because I follow Roseanne, and then I'm like, oh, crap, I don't follow James O'Keefe like I should. For those of you who have X, follow James O'Keefe. He always does a lot of these. I've not seen a single one of them that turned out to be wrong. But we'll see what the man has to say right now. World exclusive bombshell. Senior DOJ Epstein investigator reveals Epstein was CIA. Confirms rapes occurred while Bill Clinton was on the plane. Says of President Trump, he's protecting a lot of other people. He's not protecting himself because there's nothing there. I've interviewed all the victims. There's never been an instance where Trump was on a plane with these kids or has occurred. But that's can't be said for Clinton, and it can't be said for others. The DOJ didn't want to go after Epstein because he's an asset for the United States and Israel. It's not talked about yet, but it's soon to come out that Epstein was a CIA informant. It's been leaked before. I've seen it in some of the circles that I am in online. But let's see the whole deal here.
And it'll soon come out that he was a CIA informant.
He was a CIA informant.
He wasn't a CIA informant. I think he's protecting a lot of other people. He's not protecting himself because there's nothing there, but he's protecting a lot of people.
Because Trump's now saying it's a hoax of the case, like a hoax or something. I mean, come on, you know it's not a hoax. He's been on the plane, many times.
Mm-hmm.
It's just he was never on the plane with the kids.
I've seen the itineraries and I've interviewed all of the victims. There's never been an instance where Trump was on a plane with these kids and a rape occurred. But that can't be said for Clinton, and it can't be said for others. While the Clintons were on the plane, while Bill Clinton was on the plane, there were rapes that occurred.
Overheard at Phoenix Airport on September 8th, 2025, a senior Justice Department investigator who personally worked on the Epstein case tells all. Glenn Prager, who has reviewed Epstein itineraries and has interviewed Epstein's victims, drops a bombshell. He says that the DOJ did not want to go after Epstein because he's a CIA asset, that the evidence from his investigation confirms that Bill Clinton was present for alleged rapes on the Lolita Express, and that President Trump was not present for the rapes that Glenn Prager investigated.
Which lines up because, again, love him or hate him, Trump did expel Epstein from Mar-a-Lago when he allegedly found out what he was doing. Whether or not he was a CIA informant, whether or not whatever else you want to get into, they haven't released any concrete evidence as to what happened around that time or after. But from all sources that I've been able to see, that's the way it is. And I said this before, because Trump did talk about this when he was running and all this other stuff. But I think that it implicates people on both sides, and it probably implicates at least one person on Trump's team and enough high-ranking people on both sides to the point where, I don't know, I think it'll cause a huge worldwide economic collapse, to be honest. It might not be that big. I might be overblowing things, but I really think that's the point, considering Prince Andrew and a lot of other foreign officials have been hinted at or implicated outright. But let's continue.
But that he is protecting a lot of other people that were.
How about this whole Epstein thing that's like going down?
I worked on that case. I used to interview all the victims, and my picture was 20 to 30 victims, in Palm Beach that I was interviewing and dealing with and stuff like that. And then we go ready to go to trial, and they would flip. Epstein would just pay them off, and they were just like these little kids. They pay off their family. They're all broke kids and poor families and all. So you pay them off like anywhere from $150,000 to $500,000. Nothing in that guy's world.
Prager there describes how the victims that he interviewed were paid off by Epstein right before going to trial. Prager has worked as an investigator inside the Department of Justice for over 20 years. According to Prager's LinkedIn About page, it says that during the tenure at DOJ, Prager served as an inspector overseeing sensitive investigations involving major DOJ components, including the FBI, DEA, Bureau of Prisons, U.S. Marshal Service, ATF, and the U.S. Attorney's offices. This seems to corroborate what Prager told us. He was tasked with interviewing Epstein's rape victims and investigating flight logs. On his backpack in the airport, we spotted an embroidered FBI patch, which caught the attention of our citizen journalist.
I'll tell you this, because no, it's not talked about yet, but it'll soon come out that he was a CIA informant.
He was a CIA.
He wasn't a CIA.
Although many have suspected it to be the case, this is the first time a Department of Justice official has confirmed that Epstein worked for the CIA and is a foreign asset.
So DOJ was settling the case, and they were just letting him, do house arrest, and they minimized his arrest. Part of that is because all the victims kept on flipping, and they didn't have anyone to go to trial with. The more importantly part is they didn't want to go after him. He's a asset for the United States and Israel for the CIA. I just know that's what he was. That's why he was protected so long for this, and people turned a blind eye about all this garbage that he was doing in the United States. He had a lot of secrets. more about Israeli stuff than anything else. I mean, he was doing stuff for Israel and the United States. He was, he's working for both.
Glenn Prager, the Department of Justice investigator on the Epstein case, then talks about whether President Trump was involved. Many are trying to tie Trump to Epstein, but what Glenn Prager says is that Trump wasn't present during the inappropriate sexual behavior that he was investigating. But Prager does say that Bill Clinton was, backed up by his experience interviewing
know who
victims
else.
and reviewing the Epstein Lolita Express itineraries. Quote,
and hopefully, especially if this is legit, because while I have a lot of respect for James O'Keefe and the former Project Veritas and all the work that he's done, both during and since leaving said organization, I take all this with a grain of salt, because it is leaked information, and while it looks very convincing, we're not seeing the words coming directly from this man's mouth. And there's no 100% confirmation, because there are always people who look like other people. I'm a very skeptical sort, but at the same time, he's got a good track record. A very good track record. Like better than Wario 64 for gaming leaks, especially Nintendo stuff.
they killed the Epstein list to protect the Clintons.
But they claim that, that Trump's,
maybe not better, but as good at least.
He wasn't. I mean, I've seen the agendas, I've seen the itineraries, and I've interviewed all the victims. There's never been an instance where Trump was on a plane with these kids and a rape occurred. But that can't be said for Clinton, and it can't be said for others. I remember that it was being killed because I know Clintons were on there. And
The Clintons were on there.
100%. And while the Clintons were on the plane, while Bill Clinton was on the plane, there were rapes that occurred. And I'm saying Trump, although as many flights as there were and all that kind of stuff, and on the island and all that stuff, he was never there during a single alleged rape. But Clinton for sure, and that's where the big cover-up was.
The Department of Justice investigator inside the Trump Justice Department says that while Trump may not have been present during the crimes that Prager investigated, it is clear that Trump is, quote, protecting a lot of people.
I don't know what's new that I have never seen that he's so hesitant to now show what's going on, and releasing all those files and stuff like that. I think he's protecting a lot of other people. He's not protecting himself because there's nothing there, but he's protecting a lot of people.
The citizen journalist boarded American Airlines Flight 1634 and landed in D.C. Monday at 8 o'clock at night and proceeded to go to dinner with this man, this DOJ investigator, at a restaurant called Blue Duck Tavern. Glenn Prager dislikes the fact Trump said the Epstein scandal is a hoax, but he also says, according to the evidence from his investigation, that Trump is not covering up for himself.
Because Trump's now saying it's a hoax, the case is like a hoax or something. I mean, come on, it's not a hoax. He says a lot of stupid stuff. He's been on the plane many times. Mm-hmm. It's just he was never on the plane with the kids. People want to tie it to him and say he's covering up for himself, but he's not.
Now, this is a very good thing for President Trump and seemingly exonerates him from many people who claim that he was doing something inappropriate himself. This dinner went on for an hour and 45 minutes as this Department of Justice investigator revealed things to a stranger that the leadership of the FBI and the Department of Justice has not. Prager revealed more information about Trump's hesitation to be fully transparent with the Epstein case, gave us some details about internal gripes against FBI Director Kash Patel from within the FBI, and he detailed a developing feud between Kash Patel and Attorney General Pam Bondi. If you'd like to see more of that conversation in the restaurant, you may subscribe to OMG and find it on our website.
Who was like the one name where you're like, oh my God?
Here he is. Hey there, is this Glenn?
Yes.
You work for the Department of Justice, correct?
No.
You don't work for the Department of Justice. You had a patch on your backpack that said FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation, in the airport.
Yeah.
And you talked about how you interviewed the Epstein people, all the Epstein victims. Do you recall that conversation?
I didn't. No. How can I help you?
I wanted to confirm that you, in fact, did work for the Department. Hang on with the phone. Let's try calling him again.
Why would you talk about this?
Glenn?
Like, is this
Well,
I don't know who you are. I'm not talking to you.
you already did speak to my friend.
Hey, now stop talking. I don't know who you are.
I'm a journalist. I need your help, sir.
I'm not talking to you or any journalist about anything.
Did you interview the Epstein victims?
I can't talk to you.
Sir. On the heels of releasing this story, I wanted...
And I don't know how he gets these interviews. A lot of them he uses honeypots. But a lot of the times, I don't know. I don't know how he gets these admissions and such. But so far, again, he's got a really good track record. I'm excited to see the rest of this. Apparently there's more.
To emphasize just how touching it was for me to see Erica Kirk stand on stage in front of those 74,000 people in a stadium and say that she forgives the assassin who killed her husband, Charlie Kirk. I actually took this photo standing right in front of her when she did that, and I wept. The people standing next to me also wept. In the couple days that followed since that Sunday, it dawned upon me that equally as important as forgiving those who trespass against us is for those of us, the living, to achieve justice and accountability for the bad actors behind the scenes corrupting this country. We must have a Department of Justice that is actually about justice. If we do not have any accountability for bad actors, good people, even God-fearing people, are going to resort not to forgiveness, but vengeance. We cannot allow that to happen. And the only solution is exposure, journalism, sunlight, as the best disinfectant. When the leadership in our government is not forthcoming and transparent about matters they should be, you will see men on the front lines, men on the inside, like this Glenn Prager guy, who are familiar with the files, familiar with Epstein, familiar with who's on the airplanes. Indeed, he's the guy who actually interviewed all the victims in Palm Beach. Well, you'll see people like this be forthcoming and honest when their leadership isn't. I recognized Prager's life is now changed forever. You might be tempted to focus on that and focus on him personally. We have no doubt that no matter how much proof is provided by me, the powers that be will deny, deflect, personalize, and cover all of this up. You may wonder how it is these guys in our government so brazenly open up to total strangers in airports.
Actually, I was just saying
about
that, yes.
national security secrets. Please note, this isn't about him or Glenn Prager.
Honeypot?
It's about
Is it
opening
honeypot?
the floodgates of honesty from other men who are just like Glenn Prager, but who never wanted to be involved, were just following orders. Prager lived with these secrets, and the horror of what he knows lives on his conscience, the weight on his shoulders. He lives with the guilt for knowing the truth. That is why he was so forthcoming in public in the airport. That is why others with national security secrets will continue to be so forthcoming to our army of citizen exposers. And there are many more out there like Glenn Prager. And now, right now, you who are watching must come forward and tell the truth and be transparent. Be a hero and do the right thing. In the last few weeks, I've reached out to top officials of the Department of Justice repeatedly ahead of these reports. Our attorneys even sent a letter to the FBI Director Kash Patel. There seems to be more of an interest, generally speaking, in covering their ass instead of telling the truth. While we expect that of the previous administrations, we expect better of the Trump administration.
We would hope.
And those who campaigned on the promise of transparency. Now, I was advised that reaching out far ahead of time would lead to this story being suppressed, something that my team, and I dare say all of the people who actually voted for this administration, can't comprehend. But these reports are going to continue coming out, and they will not be partisan or political. They're going to cut across the political divide, because this is not a political mission, and I am not a political person. It is my mission to clean up society through transparency, accountability, and the truth. I wrote last week, the legacy of Charlie Kirk is to do the right thing for the right reasons. And reflecting on his legacy, I saw a remarkable change within him in the last couple years, but especially the last couple months of observing him from afar and also knowing him personally. I reached out to Charlie to solicit his advice ahead of this story. I was expecting Charlie Kirk to express the same reluctance as the top DOJ officials relayed to me. The same officials that Charlie, no doubt, in some part or in some way, matter, shape, or form, helped to get their jobs in the first place. I told Charlie I was conflicted about what to do, and Charlie Kirk's last words to me were, "James, you should be a journalist first."
Oh, wow.
This kind of journalism is dangerous, legally taxing, and certainly not profitable.
Sorry, hold on.
In some part or in some way, matter, shape, or form, helped to get their jobs in the first place. I told Charlie I was conflicted about what to do, and Charlie Kirk's last words to me were, "James, you should be a journalist first."
Sorry, I had to hear that again. Department of Justice spokesperson. This individual worked at the Department of Justice as a program analyst for over 15 years ago. He has no understanding of it or access to the underlying facts in this investigation. His statement should not be considered accurate. It is disgusting that someone would further exploit victims of sexual abuse by fabricating stories for their personal benefit. And see, this right here, while, yes, I agree the victims should be considered first, but have you ever noticed that when it comes to those affected by a lot of these situations, it truly seems that they're used more as a shield for those responsible than for the actual benefit of the victims as a whole? Maybe that's just me, but let's continue. He's got a little bit more here. About 40 seconds.
This kind of journalism is dangerous, legally taxing, and certainly not profitable. If we are to continue to uncover these dark truths, we need your help now. Please donate to our 501c3 nonprofit, Citizen Journalism Foundation, to continue funding these types of investigative reports. The nonprofit, again, is called Citizen Journalism Foundation. The donations are fully tax deductible, and information can be found at o'keefemediagroup.com/donate.
Okay. So that is, wow.
It's not talked about yet, but it'll soon come out.
Sorry. Okay. Andy Nogue put out. Joshua John, the man who carried out a deadly shooting on an ice facility in Dallas, left behind a literal anti-ice message on a rifle cartridge where he unalived himself. John comes from a lib biracial family in Fairview, Texas. His mother, critical of gun laws in her state. Her sister, Kyoko John, is a woke woman who was a supporter of Beto O'Rourke. Oh boy, Beto. Beto, by the way, is a nepotism baby who doesn't really know what he's talking about, but not a lot of rich kids do. The attack occurred in the context of months of Democrat politicians, liberals, and left encouraging violent direct actions against ICE. Antifa and far-left extremists have been releasing names, photos, and addresses of ICE agents, urging comrades to kill them. This is true. I've seen a lot of them. In July, members of a North Texas Antifa cell allegedly carried out a shooting ambush of an ICE facility in Alvarado. One officer was shot in the neck, but narrowly survived. Golly. The nightly violent attacks on ICE facilities in Portland by Antifa remain ongoing. Speaking of, there it is there, actually. So this is the guy. This is, I mean, and that's a little, look, you have to realize these aren't the people from movies that we watched growing up. A lot of these guys are dipshits. Their parents were Tylenol abusers. Sorry. And they're not the most articulate sort. And this isn't the first time that Antifa has put the people that they are allegedly so interested in saving at risk for clout. And that's all this is. I don't believe that any of these Antifa people actually give a shit. I really just think they want to cause mayhem and violence. How do I know? Because I've known people, and I've been around a lot of them in my time. I'm in my 40s. And you have to understand, I've been around the country quite a bit in my 20s and in my late teens and even in my 30s. And I've seen these people. I haven't been directly involved, but I used to believe a lot of the same things that these people do. And it is just wild. Oh, that's his mother, I guess. Governor Abbott, his mother, I guess, wrote, Governor Abbott, Senator Cornyn, Senator Cruz, how does it make you feel that your action to open up gun laws is responsible for killing 21 more people? Do you secretly sit in front of the TV, smile a demented smile? You must be proud of all the money that sits in your bank accounts from the gun lobby support. Was it worth it, Governor Abbott? How about your senators? When you prioritize money over people, this is what you get. Here's my hope. May you be reminded of the deaths every time you spend that precious blood money you have received from the gun lobby. Look. Okay, I'll finish this and then I'll... gun lobby. Hope you think of it 100% when you attend the NRA meetings in a few days. Senator Cornyn, I realize you suddenly had something in D.C. come up where you won't be attending. It's unfortunate you don't even have the spine to stand up to the NRA and tell them the real reason you aren't attending. You are a coward, a spineless coward. Why have our government officials failed us? Their lust for money and power. It is time we vote out spineless tools and bring in our own spineless tools. Sorry, bring in people who actually care about others. Look, we've seen how a lot of their caring looks. This isn't empathy. This is a lust for power. Most of people like this, as you've seen from the previous administration and several people who are currently in Congress who have thrown out the opposition, or look at states like California that are heavily blue and they've got a super majority. They will be blue forever. They barely have Republicans willing to run. Every now and then they'll get not Thomas Sowell. Oh, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he was a black conservative that people called a white supremacist for running against, I think it was Newsom for governor of California, like 4 years ago, maybe. And then I guess that's his sister, Kyoko. But this isn't the first time that Antifa has put people at risk. This is from 2019. An Antifa gunman wanted to destroy an ICE facility in Tacoma, Washington, and he didn't care who would be shot or blown up inside when he carried out his attack. Willem Van Spronsen, an Antifa member in the John Brown Gun Club militia, came with a rifle and explosives. He had been radicalized by anti-ICE propaganda on media. He tried to blow up the huge propane tank attached to the facility, to the building. He died in the course of the attack. Before the shooting, he sent out a manifesto to his comrades. It referenced Bella Ciao, as we heard with the Charlie Kirk murderer, assassin, referenced on a rifle cartridge in the Charlie. Oh, yeah, he said the same thing. None of Van Spronsen's comrades turned him in, and he is still called a hero and martyr to Antifa today. And he's got a New York Post article here, I guess. Oh, it's New York's. It's Andy No's article that he put out back then. And I remember when this came out. I remember there was more than just Andy No reporting on this. But Andy No, if Stop Asian Hate was anything that actually wanted to stop Asian hate, it would have started with Andy No, because Andy No has been brutalized by Antifa on more than one occasion, but one around the time he wrote this article, as a matter of fact, stands out most. No one cared when a bunch of white Antifa guys beat up Andy No. I don't get this, but But this is where we're at right now. There's more information coming in on the Dallas shooter. And again, just like this guy from Tacoma, the Dallas shooter, again, he was on a rooftop pretty far away, but he was shooting just randomly through a window, I believe it was. There's a lot of mixed information on this, but one thing is true across all of it. He was just firing randomly. And he ended up killing 2 of the people that he claims to want to save. The same way with the guy here in Tacoma who was going to blow up the ICE facility that had detainees inside. Look, these are people who are okay with dying for the cause, or are okay with killing for the cause, and are okay with the very people who they claim to want to save dying for their cause. What do you think the detainees want? Do you think that the detainees would rather die than go home? Some of them, sure. Some of them who are actually here for asylum, sure. But the rest of them, they'll just find their way back. And you should not be able to lay claim to someone else dying for your cause, whether you claim to be fighting for them or not. These 2 detainees that died, and it was 2, that another one passed late in the day, yesterday or early this morning, I can't remember. But 2 of them died, and the shooter took his own life. A lot of people are saying this is a psyop from the CIA. Whatever it is, these are people who are mentally deranged enough to be coerced to do so. And they were already there. A lot of people over the years have said that the media is responsible for this. And I used to be the one who thought that that's insane. I used to be a staunch hater of Fox News. I still don't really like them. Honestly, the only conservative in media I like is the guy from CNN on a show with a bunch of Democrats. And that's only because I respect them for standing there in the lion's den, so to speak. And he normally stands his ground pretty well. And he's pretty good at making sure he gets his words in. I have a lot of respect for that. And again, I don't care that he's a white dude. No matter who you are and what you look like, I care about you going for the truth. And I care about, if you stand for the truth, being strong enough to stand up and make sure your voice is heard, especially if you represent other people. But that being said, guys, again, I'm going to get off my soapbox. Let's see. Oh, thank you, Ella, for liking my post and possibly watching right now. But that's all I've got for today, guys. I'm going to go get ready for my normal day. But I want to thank y'all for coming by. The show continues to grow. Please, if you like it, drop a like on whatever platform you're on. Drop a like on X. Share, subscribe, do whatever you can. I'm on Twitch. I mostly just drop my gaming stuff over there. I haven't done one this week because I've been sick. But I have to make sure to get these morning shows out. And unfortunately, the gaming involves talking in different voices and coordination with my hands, which I haven't been capable of the last few days. But I am going to drop some stuff on that this weekend. And I am going to continue dropping these daily shows. But again, I appreciate you all very much. If you have Twitch and Amazon Prime, drop me a Prime sub over there. But until next time, as always, guys, we have to push for peace. Uh-oh. Oh, sorry. I follow Legal Mindset, and I'm always excited when he puts something else out. But until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.